People who had the guts to ask their crush out. What happened afterwards? Story 1. I fell hard for this girl once because we literally liked the same things. From music to type of food, etc. She was attractive too. She was white and I'm Filipino. The more I started to get to know about her past, I noticed all of her exes were Asian guys. Nothing wrong with having preferences, but I dodged a bullet because she only liked me because I was Asian. And the fact that she did the deed with my friend while me and her were on the talking stage. I started avoiding her since I couldn't trust her anymore and she was very manipulative and lied a lot. She got pregnant and had a kid with a new guy. The baby daddy is Filipino as well. A few months later, she started sending me pics of her kid saying, "He's just as cute as you. Filipino boys are so cute." Mind you, she was in a relationship with a diff guy. Most of her messages were heavily flirtatious. She only started messaging me after her boyfriend deployed. Story 2. Asked this guy out. He seemed sweet and smart and cute. First time I ever asked someone out. He said yes. The first day was picking up a video after he got off work and watching it at his place. Sounds good. He's really detail obsessive about the timing though, which is weird. Yep, he was on house arrest. Probation after being in the federal pen. Not a violent crime, thank God. But taught me that it would be smart to get to know someone a tad better before agreeing to be alone with them in their home. It had nothing to do with illegal substances. It had to do with organized crime. Not a small lapse in judgment and not for having a little grass on him or something. Also, my point was that I went someplace to be alone with someone who was a practical stranger. I realized that was not a particularly smart move in general. I didn't know this person before I put myself in a vulnerable situation, which is vulnerable whether or not the person has a criminal record. I did not decide to date him solely because he was on house arrest or had a criminal record. Everyone makes mistakes, including myself. The bigger issue is that he didn't take responsibility for what he did. He made excuses, insisted he didn't really hurt anyone, and blamed other people for what happened. This is not a case of making a mistake, owning up to it, and moving on. Also, it turned out he was incredibly racist, which is unrelated but an issue for me. A trick with this that most people do is text a close friend their address and let them know when you're there and leave. The world's a scary place. Story 3. My sophomore, her junior year of college, we got introduced through mutual friends and hit it off. We started hanging out at parties we both went to, in the coffee shop at my school, doing homework, all that. We didn't really seek each other out, just kept running into each other because of our mutual friend groups. This went on for a month. We'd hang out and chat and flirt jokingly. I didn't think I had a chance with her, being a pretty popular girl a year older than me, so I figured she was just being nice, returning my jokes and all. It turns out she didn't think she had a chance with me, and also thought I was just being nice or friendly with my jokes. She and her friends would always joke, "When will I be with him? He's the light of my life." And so I didn't think of it as any less of a fun joke when she did it. One night we both went out to a bar party with a group of friends and ended up going home with different people. We were chatting about it the next day and I was like, crap, this hurts a little. Are these feelings? A couple of days later she mentioned that the guy wanted to grab lunch with her and she wasn't sure she was into him the same way. I was walking her home and thought if I didn't say something I'd regret it. So I gambled that maybe all that joking or flirting from her was real. Told her I had feelings for her and then spent the longest 5 seconds of my life waiting to hear, "I'm glad you said something, because I like you too." It's been 2.5 years and we're still going strong. Story 4. I go to a cafe and the barista is a grade A cutie pie. I just broke up from a soul-sucking relationship 3 months ago that had lasted 7 years and 5 years longer than it should have. We talked often after work, for me, and shared similar tastes in music, if not an appreciation for all music, appreciation for film, and discussed much of it, even suggested some movies to each other to watch and shot sarcastic comments back and forth. I mustered the courage to go ask her to go pumpkin carving last weekend and she said she would love to. She asked the next day if I'd like to go out because she had a surprise day of work off. We had a 4-hour conversation at a cafe downtown and then went on a 2-hour walk. Came back to the car holding hands. In all of my life, I've never really done that. She said she wanted to not get into a relationship like that quickly, and I agreed. Drove her home and gave each other a hug goodbye. She asked if I wanted to come over that next Friday evening and cook dinner and watch some scary movies. We did, and it was great. Watching people get chased by a guy with a chainsaw had the desired effect, I believe because I ended up crawling into her arms and squeezing her palms. Watched the next movie and just ended up essentially hugging the entire time and scratching each other's head. Time to go, and I go to give her a kiss on the cheek goodnight, but she goes for the lips instead. We laugh. 2 nights later and we spend Sunday all together and go thrift store shopping. Too much rain for the planned pumpkin carving. 6 hours later, I walk her to her car and we look into each other's eyes. I go in for the real deal kiss and she does too. That was yesterday. I feel a happiness inside I haven't felt in years. We are extremely blunt and to the point with each other. Much of the dialogue between us in the above story is this way. I like her because she makes me want to take care of myself and be myself. I feel like exercising and studying or reading again for the first time in years all of a sudden. It has only been a little more than a week and I'm hesitant to put labels on this right now. In fact, I don't know why I'm even sharing this. I can tell she's very special to me. And that's all that matters, I suppose. You never know who you'll discover behind a face until you talk to them. This has most definitely affected me for the better, even if it does not end in the ideal manner. My only hope is that my old habits do not resurface and hurt this.
Oh my God! What is that? If you two are asking what that is, it's the sponsor of today's video, Rufus Rugs. We've been hard at work, creating the best quality and premium hand-tufted rugs money can buy. Now there's a chance you own a carpet that looks something like this. Let's just be real, it's time for an upgrade. And luckily for you, me and the boys from Rufus Rugs are at your service. We don't make those average cheap quality looking rugs. Nope, not gonna happen. Each one is handcrafted to perfection. No shortcuts, no robot assembly lines, and no dropshipping BS. Just pure rug grind. Whether you love anime, sports, cars, or anything else you can think of, we can turn it into a rug. So click the first link in the description and have your custom idea come to life.
Story 5. He was the head chef where I worked and I was new in town. We always sat in the same booth during our breaks and got to know each other over the course of a month and found out we had a lot in common. One night before I left, I wrote my number down to give it to him and to ask him out. We asked each other, "Do you want to hang out?" at the same time and then blushed. Our first date was at a rooftop bar celebrating a coworker's birthday. He asked me if he could kiss me and that's when I knew he was the one. Now, years later, we have a beautiful baby boy that we love more than each other. He still has my phone number in his wallet. You think it's sweet that he has your phone number in his wallet still, but if he's anything like the average Joe, he might just suck at remembering his wife's phone number. Story 6. Not exactly my story as it is his, but when I was in high school, I had this huge crush on this guy in my friend group. Gamers, nerds, outcasts, etc., starting from the 9th grade. He was seriously the funniest person I had ever met, and he was so cool because of it. All my female friends would tell me to just ask him out, but I couldn't because I was so afraid he would say no and make fun of me for the rest of my high school experience. In my junior year, he left to go to a different school, but we still kept in touch because his cousin, who also went to the school, became my best friend, to this day. She had managed to give me his number, and after mustering up the courage to text him, he was actually engaged in conversations with me, even though I was lanky and gross. Then the texting fell off and we grew distant in our senior year. One day my bestie had a family event at her house and my crush was there. We all had such a good time and I realized that my feelings, which had merely been in hibernation, were back and stronger than ever, but he was probably too cool to notice me. Later that day I went home, he messaged me, told me he really liked me and wanted to date. We dated for almost a year before I had to leave for college and mess up my life entirely. The moral of the story is to ask them out, because maybe they'll say yes. P.S. If you're out there, D, I'm really sorry. Story 7. We were hanging out at a typical spot when I told her that I'd had a big crush on her for the past year and I'd really like if she gave me a shot. Just one date. She said, nah, I don't see you like that. And then it was, pretty freaking weird. She tried changing the subject, but I was a million miles away by that point. I made up a reason to take off and she graciously didn't call me out for it being BS. I avoided her the next few weeks. For some reason or another, her rejection humiliated me even though no one else knew about it. If she texted to see if I wanted to hang out, I wouldn't respond or I'd lie and say I was doing something. One night there was a knock on the door of my apartment. It was her. I knew she'd come around. I opened the door and she came in and sat down on my couch and said this, and I'm paraphrasing. "I just don't like you in a romantic way. I can't help it. I'm just not attracted to you. You just don't spark my fire, I'm sorry. That being said, I miss you. You're my best friend and I spend pretty much all my free time with you. So if you want to go on a date with me, I'll do that for you." And I realized how much my friendship meant to her and how bad and cowardly I'd been to avoid her after she rejected me. I told her that I was sorry and if she could forgive me and see her way past this, I'd really like to resume our friendship. It wasn't easy, but I was able to find the maturity to conquer those feelings. We picked up where we left off, minus a little baggage. A few years ago, a lifelong friend from back home came down to visit me, introduced him to my friends here, and, well, she found her spark. They've been happily married now for 2 years, and I can only hope that their son and my daughter can enjoy the same level of friendship as she and I do. Bravo, dude. That's the story of growing up right there. If you've had this exact same rejection event, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Maybe you'll get more luck now. Story 8. This was an agonizingly depressing one that ended well. We met, ironically enough, on Valentine's Day in 2015, and I was instantly thinking, oh god, what? Because she was really nice, had a great sense of humor, and was stunningly attractive. Anyways, we lost contact and met again the following year, and I was even more, oh god. So I was avoiding eye contact to not look like I was staring, and when we spoke, I always lost track of the conversation thinking about her. We spoke for a while and then lost contact again in 2017 after she moved miles away and we lost every single other shared contact. Suddenly, by sheer chance, Instagram recommended her account to me saying it was new to Instagram. I messaged her and we got to talking. Turns out she thought everyone secretly hated her and I was the only person she thought saw her as a friend or liked her at all. I helped her with any problems she had. I did everything I could. I mean, hell, she's literally perfect. I'm gonna friendzone myself just to stay near her. On top of all that, she's artistic, she loves helping. We came together and she actually finds my bad puns funny. I cannot lose this. One night, I just arrived home from work. I used to DJ at some of the more expensive wedding venues, so this was about 1 a.m., and we started talking on Discord. While there, I had planned out a multi-page Google Doc attack strategy for asking her out, as she knew I liked someone I was referring to as A, mainly because anywhere but well is where this goes, but not that it was her. So in February of 2019, almost exactly 4 years after we met, 4 days after Valentine's Day at 4 in the morning, I told her I was going to ask A out. Waited a few minutes and my heart was making my bed shake due to beating and said, quote, "Hi, A." After an awkward explanation because she didn't get what I meant, plus a lot of backtracking on my part, I found out that since 2015 she'd felt the same. She'd been following me the whole time we were together. We're only in the same place for a few hours. So because I was desperately trying to not look stalkerish, she thought I had been avoiding her. And when I never made direct eye contact, she thought I was looking for escape routes from the conversation. So she pretty much thought of me as the one friend who'd she'd do anything to get with, but who had no interest. Because we're awkward messes, it took us about 18 hours after that to actually decide we were going to call ourselves boyfriend and girlfriend. So now I'm in a relationship with the funniest, kindest, most talented, most modest. Don't you disagree with me on this? I know you're reading this. You are this. The most beautiful girl I've ever met. We do weird things all the time. Like I found out she has already planned wedding vows for her, which happened to coincide with mine, planning out how I'd ask her to marry me. Well, finalizing, I'd planned that one out at work before we even got together because I'm a creep. The moral of the story, time means nothing. If it takes you years, doesn't mean they'll think you were only ever friends with them to get with them like I was worried she'd think. Story 9. This girl came to my school in 9th grade. We had both suffered bullying, but we were generally happy people. Neither of us had ever had that one close friend. We became that immediately. I had a rough year and basically had a relationship with a girl while my friend had a crush on me. She had no reason to continue being friends with me, but she did. We've been like family ever since. We go through the problems of high school, the work, stress, uncertainty. My parents almost split up when I was a senior. We helped each other through everything. People would mistake us as a couple. We always had fun with each other, have deep talks, talk on the phone or FaceTime for hours, and have occasional sweet and sentimental moments. We'd laugh it all off and swear up and down nothing would ever happen. I was adamant about a relationship because I didn't want to get hurt again and thought I'd just be fine alone. We follow each other to college. We spend all this time together and continue being buds. She has so many amazing qualities. But one day I realized that all the great qualities she has that I've loved and respected all these years are the exact things that would make me risk everything for a relationship. My brain switched gears immediately. 6 years of being each other's closest friends and now I caught feelings. I told her in person. We talked for about 3 hours. She said she considers me too much like family. We were both naive to think it could happen. We didn't talk for 10 days after that. She said she needed space. The one person I've spoken to every single day for the last 6 years. We've had another dry spell for a week now. Rejection sucks, but I stand to lose the closest friend I have. And it hurts every day. We've always said we mean the world to each other and we'd be lost without each other. I'm afraid I'm falling into irrelevance and eventually I'll just be a memory to her. I always want to be that family figure in her life because I protected her when we first met. I didn't bully her with the rest of the crowd. Her feelings for me were so long ago, but I joke now and say that we're even. Story 10. She seemed to be throwing signs of interest because the first couple times we hung out through some mutuals, she kept touching my arms and giving me a little to no personal space and had us hang in the back from the group as we talked about philosophy and life. So naturally, I thought we had chemistry and asked her out. We went to an art museum, got some food, and talked about a whole variety of topics. There seemed to be some really good chemistry going on as we couldn't stop talking or joking around with each other. Dropped her off and she gave me a hug, a smile, and told me to text her, and then ghosted me after I attempted to start a conversation a few times throughout the week. Then I ran into her a month later and she apologized about ghosting me, but that she wanted to still be friends and that she was dealing with this one dude, but that she'd text me. Proceeds to give me a hug and explains how she really does like me as a person and my personality is intelligent and all. Another month passed and I still haven't heard anything. Come to think of it, she talked a lot about her ex, made an unnecessary comment about my body type and how it's on the skinny side, not to be rude, and then proceeded to talk about how she wanted a sugar daddy, all while grabbing my arm and giving me no personal space whatsoever and throwing compliments at me left and right. Very confused. Mixed messages. But I'm moving on because it actually got me a bit neurotic. Not a good sign, but what else can you do? Kinda thankful this one didn't work out. He dodged a real big bullet there. Story 11. He asked me out on a date. We went out, had fun, and went back to being just friends. Time passes and graduation is fast approaching. He pours out his heart in a letter and has basically given up at this point. I consider how much he means to me, and how much losing him will hurt when we move off to college. Go over to his house and shoot him with a Nerf gun, a reference to his letter. We end up sitting on a couch in silence. I steel my nerves and reach out to hold his hand, another reference to his letter. We'll never forget the look in his eyes when he turned to me. Fast forward a few years and we are now crazy in love and engaged. Sometimes it pays off to ask out your crush. Boy, am I glad that he did. Story 12. I didn't actually ask him out, but at a party I let him know how I felt. That I'd wanted to ask him out for a long time. We'd become good friends and I wasn't too worried. I was taken aback and delighted. "Oh, my dude," he said, blushing. "I'm straight, but that almost makes me wish I wasn't." "Really? You think I'm that cute?" He gave me a hug and I felt his back muscles rippling through his t-shirt. "I'm totally using this as an excuse to feel your back muscles," I told him. He hugged me tighter. He's one of my closest bros and one of the few people I can be utterly grotesquely open with. 22 years later, we live 1,500 miles apart, but we still text often. I totally expected them to lose their friendship, but I guess not. Nice guy. Story 13. We had recently graduated high school. I confessed my feelings for her, feelings that I kept to myself since we were little kids. We made out. We made plans for a date the next day, and then she stood me up and ghosted me for about 2 weeks. And somebody in my class called to invite me to a party. She was already there and hopped on the line, apologized for bailing on me, and said we could talk when I got there. So like the totally rational teenager I was, I hopped in my car and started driving halfway across the United States that night. Crashed with my cousins for a couple of months, joined the military, and left the country for several years. It's been almost 19 years since then, and the feeling of heartbreak still remains. Story 14. This was the second time I met her. We were at a mutual friend's place just hanging out. She mentions she's about to leave. I go to the bathroom and splash some water in my face because it seemed like the time to do it. Quick mirror pep talk. I walk out with her and ask her for her number. I realize I don't have my phone on me. I gave her my number instead. We've been together for 2.5 years, totally worth it. If it hadn't worked out, it would have been one of many momentarily awkward moments in my life. I think not taking the shot would have weighed on me much more. Story 15. She said yes and we went out to dinner and saw a movie together. Dropping her off, we kissed on her parents' front porch for what seemed like forever. Her dad thought so too because he started flicking the porch lights on and off. Good times. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy. How did you find out someone had a crush on you? Story 2 is cute. See you in that video.